is Chat with Nat, where I talk to people creating community in the places that we love. And today is Life Coach Friday, which means Annette Walters from Relowomen is joining me. And today we have a very timely topic. Um, COVID fatigue, COVID conflict, they are all kind of tied together. Are you seeing an increase on social media in your day to day interactions? A lot of COVID around, I'm sorry, a lot of conflict around COVID. Are you running into that? Are you seeing it on Facebook? More importantly, the question we want to answer today is how do we navigate around that? So we're going to bring in my guest, Annette Walters from Relo Women. Welcome, Annette.
Hey, thank you. As always, I'm so excited to be here. Is it still raining up there in Minnesota?
It is raining in Minnesota, but it's great because our grass is getting really green, especially around where I am, around the Lake Minnetonka area. It's actually raining right now, but I just looked outside and grass is getting green, so can't complain about it. That's the nice positive about it. And
That's
the cleaner air, the ions, we need it.
we do. And yet it looks like it's going to rain here down in the Dallas Fort Worth area, but yet it is not going to rain. No, it's
Yeah.
our air is not going to get clean. So
No
send the rain. I could use it.
center.
A
Now,
center.
so today we're talking about navigating conflict around COVID-19 and how I definitely have seen an increase in conflict over it, not just online, but I'm hearing from people I know in their day to day lives with friends and family when people aren't agreeing on simply how someone else is choosing to live their life or what they do. If it doesn't align exactly with how one person sees it, there's this increase in conflict. It's something we're seeing a lot of. And we got an email from someone raising the question of how do you navigate around the conflict all around COVID 19. So I'm going to just jump right in and share that email. So let's see here. Bring it up on the screen. Dear Annette, and also if you're just tuning in here, I'm going to make sure I post in the caption a link where you can send your email questions for Life Coach Friday because we do this every other Friday and you can send your questions into Annette Walters. So I'll be sure to share that link. And Annette, on the backside, if you could just email it to me again, I'll go ahead and add it when we're all done here.
I
We
will
can
do
do it
that.
after too. So here is our email this week. It's Dear Annette, I'm a parent at Minnetonka High School. Recently, something like over 75 seniors went on vacation to Florida together for spring break. There has been so much conflict about this on our parent page on Facebook. People threatening to pull their kids from school, others wanting to publicly shame the kids and their families. On the flip side, there are those sharing how it's no big deal at all. How do we navigate through all the conflict around COVID-19, online and in person? I'm seeing arguments like I've never seen before. Friendships are ending and families aren't speaking to each other at times over something that should not be this way. Signed, Worried Mom. Now, I know that you're in Texas, Annette, and I do know
Mhm.
what she's talking about. It was on different platforms on social media. It was a topic. And in your area, I'm sure too, there's similar things going on across the country where, especially with spring break just happening. So as I'm understanding it with this email specifically is like, how do you navigate that conflict? You're going and you're reading about this. We can use that scenario she brings up about, multiple students going together to Florida for spring break, and you see this
Mhm.
and it's creating a lot of conflict. And you're going and you're scrolling and you're watching this and you start feeling, I would imagine, upset, stress, a variety of emotions. Where do you start with this?
Well, the first place that we start in any place, especially when we have conflict like this, is that the first step is to separate the facts from everything else.
Okay.
Because the facts are are neutral, and we'll go through that as far as because I know some people like angrily uh, contest that, but we're going to go through the facts. And facts are if you line up all of the humans
Hmm.
and they all agree that this is actually what happened, that this actually is the thing, then that is a fact. If you have
Okay.
any dissension at all, it is not a fact and it is actually a construct of our own minds or a thought, what we think about what's going on.
Sure.
And so let's first separate what the facts are. So, what are the facts out of this?
I
She's a
guess the
parent
facts
from
out of this,
Minnetonka High
yeah.
School.
She's a parent, and a group of kids went on spring break, which there doesn't seem to
Hmm.
be any argument against that. So I guess those are the two
Hmm.
things that we only know as fact.
Okay. Are there any other facts here?
I don't know. Are there? We are in a pandemic. That's a fact.
We are in a pandemic. Um, People are posting comments on Facebook. They're
Hmm.
posting what they think on
They're posting what
Facebook.
they think. There are conflicting opinions. Would that be a fact? Just that there's, because I went and took a look at what she was referring to in this email, and there are
Mhm.
comments on both sides of
Mhm.
the, I guess you would call it an argument of the concern, where there were a stack of parents who were very concerned about kids going for spring break together and then coming
Mhm.
back into the school. There was mentions of the variant of COVID-19, which is now more prevalent. And there was mention of a lot
Mhm.
of concern. There were comments from even nurses having concern about now having to, go back to 60-hour work weeks and whatnot. So that's
Right.
that's the concern, and I guess that's the fear. And then on the
Mhm.
other side of it, there were some parents who were saying, well, it's their choice. It's okay to
Right.
travel. We don't know if they took precautions or not. So what I saw was kind of a lot of going back and forth on this, and
Right.
and what this woman's referring to, who sent us the email, this heightened conflict happening.
It is. And but let's take it back to the facts.
Hmm.
And so the facts, I'm just going to reiterate it really quick.
Okay.
This woman is a parent at Minnetonka High School.
Hmm.
There were a number of seniors that went when she said over 75, but we're just going to say seniors from Minnetonka High School went on spring break to Florida.
Okay.
And then a number of people posted words on Facebook.
Yes. So those are so we're
Those are the
sorting out
facts.
what the facts of it are. Okay.
We're sorting out the facts.
Hmm.
And this is where, some people start to go, wait, I feel uncomfortable about that, but you don't know the words. No,
Hmm.
there's still the facts are that these people put words on Facebook and they they're different words. Different words
Yeah.
come from different people and the
Yeah. So
words
there's not a
reflect who they
consensus and
are.
an agreement, and so we have
Right.
conflict. Got it.
So we have conflict. So it's important to know, to start there because if you really look at just the facts and you
Hmm.
take it down to people said words on Facebook, does that bring up an emotional reaction for you?
No, not if you just look at it like that, that they're just words on
Right.
Facebook versus what we see happening, which is making these words about a lot more than maybe, and and this is where, then this is my question for you, because I look at that and I go, well, they're making more. Is it making it more of a deal than it needs to be, or is it expressing, concerns and raising awareness? Is it, there's so many, it all depends on where
Mhm.
you're standing and looking at this really
It's
determines your
like
opinion. We all have different backgrounds. Some people have multi-generational families. There's a lot of differences. So if I'm
right,
looking
because
at this,
everybody values different things. And so if
yeah.
you lined all of these up, it's
Hmm.
almost like you've got an octagon. Not even like everybody's on different sides of the fence, but like they're on the different sides of the octagon.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
they all have different values and different needs and wants and fears. And
Hmm.
that's all reflected in what's going on here. And so the second thing to do is to take a step that, especially because, a lot of times we'll read these things on Facebook and we'll have this guttural kind of emotional reaction,
Yeah, and I think
followed
that's what she's
by,
talking about in the email.
and followed by this series of thoughts that we have. Oh my God, how can we do this? I mean,
Hmm.
one of the things that was posted on Facebook, you said, was that parents are threatening to take their kids out of school.
Hmm.
Well, they're on another side of that octagon. It doesn't sound like this parent is on that side necessarily, but it's to see everybody as it is. Okay. So from this, then it's like, okay, so what's the point here? And what she was talking about is basically wading through this, because we do
Yeah.
have this, all of these opinions, all of these, in some cases here, people are threatening, is what she said in her message.
Hmm.
So they're threatening, they're taking these actions, and so how do we navigate through it? It comes down to where she wants to be on the other side. Is she conflicted as to, is she still deciding what is the right activity to take?
Hmm.
What will keep her family safe and her side of this octagon? I don't know about you, but I have collected hundreds upon hundreds of articles about COVID and the variants and potential treatments, and I've got these plans in my head. If I do go into the hospital, what
Hmm.
happens? And so all of us are, we've got this swirl of information without actually having real clear direction, and we're depending almost on other people to show us a way. But then we get something like this, and it's all this different things, and where do we go? So if you were this parent,
Hmm.
what would how would it be best to no, that's the wrong question. um
How would I look at it, or
how would you look
what would
at
I
it,
be
and
making it mean?
how would you like to, yeah, what would you make this mean?
From her point of view, based on the email, is it's not even that it's, like she's recognizing that there are very different views and very different shades of views around
Mhm,
COVID-19 protocol and kids in school, specifically older kids in the high school.
mhm,
Um, for me, my point of view, if I'm looking at it, I can control what is happening in my household. There's not I can a lot I can do to control what's happening in other households. I can only work with the information that I have. And maybe the question I would have then is, do I comment on this? And I think that's kind of her
mhm,
question too, is how do I respond, where I want to participate in a conversation and an exchange of ideas about the pandemic and what are you doing and what am I doing and what are these people doing and what are you finding helpful and how are you combating, COVID fatigue, and kind of have the conversation like we are right now around navigating the conflict. But there's so much conflict when you see it on social media that you're either just watching it like a train wreck or you're engaging in it, and then there's a few
mhm,
voices of, hey, let's take a step back here. We are a community. We're a
mhm,
community of people who have different views, different values, different backgrounds, and a lot of different scenarios. There's no,
mhm,
if we have learned nothing else during this time, it's that there is no one size fits all solution for every family. Some kids were thriving in distance learning and some weren't doing well at all. So you have a forum like Facebook and you have a parent group on there. And this is not something that's isolated even to Minnetonka. This is happening all over the place. And it gets really heated. So I
mhm,
guess to answer your question, if I'm looking at it, it's, my tendency is always to diffuse. I want to diffuse the
mhm,
situation. I want to understand where people are coming from. But in the beginning of the pandemic, I was guilty as anyone of adding to the frenzy and oh my gosh, and the fear and all that. So I get that. But I feel that we're at a point now, a year down the road, where we know a lot more than we did. And
mhm,
we've also learned that responding in a way that's negative or attacking other people on social media doesn't get anywhere. telling somebody that, making derogatory statements about someone or, making it personal doesn't change anyone's mind or enlighten them. It just doesn't work. It just creates this conflict. So I would stay
Well,
away from that.
and you see that a lot where people will dig in their heels and then it really gets heated after that.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask any of these potential parents that are posting on this post that she's commenting on,
Hmm.
like parents are threatening to take their kids out of school, or they're reaching out and they're shaming, the kids or the families. What's interesting here and what I find fascinating is that each of these parents thinks that this is the way to respond. This
Yes.
is the only way to stay safe. And yet, as even in this note from Worried Mom, there are multiple actions that you could take. So
Hmm.
if you step back and you go, "Oh, would I pull my kids out of school? Oh, is that an option? Oh, I never considered that that would be an option. What would that look like by going back to distance learning?" Whereas these people are like, "No, I'm going to pull my kids out of school. This is the only option to stay safe." Is it the only option to stay safe? Do your kids know protocol? Do you have, what is the school
Hmm.
doing? How do we do this? Do we reorganize how we interact with families? One of the assumptions that's made, especially in conflict like this by individuals,
Hmm.
is that there is only one answer. There is only one way to look at it. And if you take that a step farther, if I entertain that this other person might have a point, or this person may have another way to address this, we saw this a lot in How Do We Educate Our Kids over the last year.
Hmm.
When we only see one option that closes us down, we dig in our heels and we actually end up not making the best decisions in the moment. And I don't know where this quote came from, but I really like it, is strong beliefs loosely held. So it's almost like you're holding them and you're willing to, stand up for them and stand by them. But at the same time, you're peaceful enough with your decision that you can see everybody else and what they are thinking. And even if you disagree with them, it's not an emotionally charged type of a thing. So,
Oh, okay. So let me make sure I'm tracking with you. So are you saying then that, so in looking at, and again, our scenario is this example of a group of high school kids going on spring break and parents being very upset about it and kind of going at each other on this parent board. So
mhm,
that you could look at that and read the comments. And even if they're different from my held beliefs or what I believe is the right thing to do, if I'm keeping it as circumstance, like, okay, this person thinks it's okay to do XYZ, but I don't, and my family and I are going to practice ABC, that it's just that. It's a difference. It doesn't threaten my view or opinion. It's a lot like, do you think this is a lot kind of like with almost any conflict, whether it's a difference in religion, a difference in, when it comes to other bias and whatnot, where you're, these firmly held beliefs. I mean, of course, we're not going to go down that. That's a whole separate rabbit hole. But I would look at these comments then just more as circumstance rather than making it be this personal attack on me because my belief and view is different.
mhm.
Ah.
Yeah, because a lot of times what we do is that we will, well, if you don't agree with me, then I'm not part of the group. If you don't agree with me, then you're not part of my group. If you don't believe if you don't believe the same thing, if you're not doing the same thing that I'm doing, then, am I questioning even having my child in public school? I mean, we make huge jumps and we connect things that are actually not connected
Ah. Uh-huh.
because we think that if this then that. If any of us have taken computer science courses, we're if then statements are everywhere and we attach it to everything. But when we attach things like that, we are limiting ourselves in what we can explore and what we can even potentially change in our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
There was a story a number of years ago, and this woman told the story of, at one point she had two little kids. I think they were, they weren't in school yet, and they were at the park. And at one point, she sat there looking at them. Now she loves her kids, but she sat there looking at them and go, really, I don't have to take care of these kids. I don't even have to be a parent. Now, a lot of us would go, "Oh my gosh, why would you think that?" But what she was
Well, I don't know.
doing
I've
is
kind
that
of thought that quite a few times. When my kids were younger, at the park,
like, "Can I
watching them
just drop
play.
you off at the fire station?
Yeah,
Can I
making all
can I
kinds of noise. Yep, and I'm
You're
finally sitting for
13,
the
I'm
first
done with
time.
you." Um,
And I'm thinking, do I really need a parent?
exactly. But, in that moment, in those, especially when we have our littles, all of our days are just consumed with basically keeping them alive, you
Yes.
know, nurturing them, making sure they eat, their whole being. And for her to sit there and think, frankly, outside the box to, yeah, I don't have to, I don't want to. I
Hmm.
can do something else. That is the time where, or that's the example where it's like it's so extreme to some people, but at the same time it shows the point of we always have options. So, in managing these conflicts, we one of the options is to, walk down this road, see these people's words as circumstances. Other options are to not read it. You go, "Oh, this is one of those. I'm not going to participate in this
Yep.
because I do get emotional about that."
And you have two
Um,
thumbs, and you know what I always like to say? You have two thumbs because you know what that means you can do on social media? Keep scrolling. Keep
scrolling.
scrolling right by it. Right by it.
I love it. And and that is a really good option, though it may still trigger an emotional response, even just seeing the title.
Hmm.
So the next step is really asking our questions. Why am I emotional about this?
Hmm.
Why is this upsetting me? Why is this difficult to navigate? And in that, when we pause, we really start to see those thoughts in our own heads that create this emotional response. Because as I've already said, it's not the facts. The facts are the kids went on spring break.
Hmm.
It's not until we have a thought about that, one way or the other, that we have an emotional response to it. And it's from that place of getting emotional, that these posts go, 375 comments, and it's finally so ugly that the moderator shuts it down.
Yeah. Do you think too that when and I love those options to either just keep scrolling by it, if you read it and it triggers you emotionally, just keep going by it, or like you said, stop and ask yourself, why is this making me emotional? If we look at these contrary opinions, so you see on, and we're using this specific example on social media, and someone has a conflicting opinion to me about how to operate in our, pandemic world, protocols that one person might want to follow and the other one doesn't. So I can look at those comments as circumstance. This is the view that somebody has. But when I start
Mhm.
attaching those circumstances to really kind of making it personal and an attack on me and my beliefs, that's when that emotion comes up and people start lashing out. Because there's this crazy thing where you can have an opinion and belief and actually keep it to yourself. I'm not known for that, but I hear it's a thing. So but if you want to engage, I guess, and maybe, and with the email we read earlier, I kind of feel like she's kind of at a loss as to respond or not respond. But what you're saying, those are two really good tools. You don't have to engage. You also don't have to make it mean something. You don't have to attach emotion and what ifs to someone else's circumstance. Because
Mhm.
even though we know, yes, group of kids, went for spring break to Florida, you can create all kinds of what ifs around that. And that's
Mhm.
where, if I'm tracking with you, we start then creating the emotion and the negativity about it and the lashing out, because we are taking a circumstance of something that happened and kind of going, what if, what if, what if? And then people just start going at each other, and but kind of out of this fearing concern, because like you said, we want our kids to be safe, we want other people's
Mhm.
children, we want the school and whatnot to be safe.
Right. And it almost harkens back to the note that we had, before Easter with the boyfriend who at least the parents thought caused trouble when he came
Yeah.
over, before in conflict. Again, we're back on conflict and navigating it. Um I assume that in that case and in this case here, you've got some sort of experience with these people and they're going to say these things. And you've seen people come against them or tell them to or ask them to change. I mean, even
Hmm.
nicely. And it comes in the spirit of, as you said, trying to protect the kids, trying to provide this environment so that the kids can learn, so that the teachers are safe and things like that. But the crux of the note that we got last time was basically we can't change this guy.
Hmm.
We've tried. He's been in trouble before and we can't change him. When we go into like all of these comments that are for the spring break trip, because of the way they come at it, and most of the comments are adversarial, it's the time when people dig in their heels and they really double down on no, this is the only way and the right way to do it. And beyond basically your children up to a certain age and employees,
Hmm.
the idea that I want to put forward is that we can't control the people. No matter how much we try, no matter how much we try to communicate that this is in their best interest, that if they do this, that this is in the best interest of the community, we still can't get to that point that they change, because all of us change based on what we want to do. Think
Hmm.
about when you've had oh, let's go with a kid. So we have a kid and they're our child, and we're like, you've got to keep your room clean. You've got to keep your room clean. And we put all this pressure on, we put in restrictions and consequences, and they get it clean. And maybe it's clean for a month or two. And then we go, oh, they've got it. And we let off the brakes. What happens? That room goes right back to exactly how it looks, which is what it is downstairs right now. Um, it it goes exactly back to the way that they are comfortable and what they want to do. And it applies to kids and it applies to adults. Think about it in a
Hmm.
work situation where you're pressured to, do this thing or control your language or, whatever. When the pressure comes off, we default to who we are. And so trying to control the people, especially in this sort of circumstance, which is what we want to do, even though it's altruistic and it's for the
Yeah.
betterment of the community, it just doesn't work
So we
because
basically can't then. Yeah, you're right. So it's kind of a viewpoint of, we know that we can't control what other people do. We can share thoughts, we can share information, but if we keep these interactions as what they are, which is just somebody else's circumstance. So if someone posts something about the pandemic and I'm completely opposed to what they're saying, I have a choice in how I want to view that. Where, they're coming from a different place, from where they're coming from, this is the right point of view. From where I'm coming from, this is the right point of view for me. So
Mhm.
I think then, if I'm understanding it, if we can approach these and see these conflicting ideas as just other options, and recognize that, we can do what we feel is best for ourselves and our family. And we can even share our ideas and our thoughts, but in from a place of wanting to share, not change and control. We have to be
Right.
okay with somebody else wanting to do things a little bit differently. And I like what you said, and I really want to make that point, your point about options. When we close ourselves down and decide that my belief about anything, but right now we're talking about conflict around COVID-19, that my belief on how to conduct myself or behave during the pandemic is the only way to do it, then I'm limiting myself and not seeing other options. So we can look at it
Hmm.
that way too. So we can disagree. We can understand that it comes from a different point of view, but we don't have to engage and we don't have to argue it and we don't have to try to change. It's not our, to change somebody else's point of view. I love when somebody has a different view from me and we can have an exchange of ideas, because for me, it opens me up to, oh, I would love to see another way to look at this. Is there another way to look at this? And there always is. And you can
Hmm.
still go back to what you believe, right? I mean, we don't have to take it on either.
And that's, and so as we all scroll through the comments, which will continue to happen on Facebook,
Hmm.
um, if we, this point then that we can't control the people, if you apply that to this, it really does then take their words to that fact level, to that neutral level. Because when we believe that we can't control the people, we may be able to influence or at the very least propose a different option, but
Hmm.
we're not invested in the end result, and that's the
Mm.
key,
Yeah.
is that then we can see this and we can have those strong beliefs loosely held. So that, because one of the best things that comes out of that, strong beliefs loosely held, so that we can see everybody else's strong beliefs,
Hmm.
is that we get a better understanding of the peoples,
Yes.
all of the peoples. We find those places then that we can connect on. Though we may, ardently disagree about this, maybe we still are parents or we're still community members. Maybe, though we disagree on this, we are, very much in favor of that new thing that's going into the Lake Minnetonka area, and we want to make sure it passes the city council or something like that. And we come together for that. And so that's how, when people propose or they say things on social media and you get an immediate emotional reaction and you want to kind of tamp it down so that you can see it, try on thinking, okay, so this person said words, and really let that set with you before you try to engage again,
Mm.
before you try to um go forward to understand. But then
So
when you're
stop
trying to
and take a step
understand,
back.
yeah, then you get into curiosity and that doesn't lead you down that negative emotional rabbit trail.
Yeah, you're
So,
right, because then you're curious
uh,
about it. And then you actually want to kind of know or understand where the other person is coming from.
mhm,
That makes a lot of sense. I think those are great, tips and
mhm,
tools. Often, sometimes it can be easier said than done, but I think like anything, a new habit or building up a muscle, it takes doing it. And that's kind
mhm.
of an interesting challenge. I think that that would be a fun challenge for all of us today. When you're scrolling through social media today and it's Life Coach Friday and you see comments, you see a comment and it kind of makes you go, "Ah," and sets you off, stop, take a step back, and try and follow that advice. Look at it for what it is, circumstance. Somebody posted words on Facebook about something. Is that something that you're going to change or that you even need to? Can you still hold on to how you see things? Can you still go about your life and make the choices that you've chosen to make for you and your family? More than likely. Can you share if you want to share an idea about something? I think having us all do our best in sharing those ideas without making it a personal attack on someone else, because there's a difference there. And I really like what you said about that and options. Consider that maybe there is another way to see it. Doesn't mean that you need to change your mind, or if I'm, like you said, I have my beliefs, loosely held. I'm open to seeing someone else's point of view on why they think that. We can avoid that conflict because then we're not going at each other and trying to change each other and not having understanding, which is what if we, just asked questions out of curiosity, or just realize that I can still believe what I want to believe without having to make someone else believe it. I don't need someone else
Mhm.
to look at me and validate my beliefs for me to hold my beliefs. And I think if we remember that we can get through and just bypass these conflicts on social media. And like the mom who emailed us, being able to be aware of it, be aware of situations, keep ourselves educated, but not engage in the conflict part of it. It's very possible because you're right. There are many options and ways of looking at it. So,
Mhm.
once again, Annette Walters from Relowomen, you have solved the problem of the day and given us
Thank you.
some ways, yeah, to go and work around this conflict. So, I'd be really interested if you're watching this and you want to take this challenge on today of go through, look at comments, and if it's rubbing you the wrong way, stop, take a step back, and ask yourself, what are you making that about? What are you making it mean? Is this something you need to engage on, or can you just, work the thumbs, keep scrolling? I appreciate you and your words of wisdom. We do Life Coach Friday every other Friday. I'm going to include in our caption a link where you can email a question for Life Coach Friday to Annette that will then take up on a future Coach Friday. I'm Natalie Webster. You can reach me through nataliewebsterrealtor.com or on my Facebook page, Natalie Webster Realtor, if you want to message me and you have an idea for an upcoming chat with Nat. And if you want to reach Annette of Relowomen, you can go to www.relowomen.com and you can reach her. And she's also, by the way, if this is your first time joining us for Life Coach Friday, she is my life coach. And she has an opportunity for our viewers and listeners where you can go to relowomen.com, click on it's chat with me or let's chat, click on let's chat.
Let's chat.
Click on Let's Chat and you can schedule a complimentary coaching session. Just it's a no string attached hour. If there's something you need to talk about, you want to get off your chest, you want to address, take advantage of it. She does it over Zoom. She's offering right now to people who are watching our, Life Coach Friday. Check that out. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a fabulous weekend. Hope you have a great weekend in Texas, Annette.
It's going to be beautiful.
Yes.
Oh,
And
and the last thing is that, if you connect and resonate with topics like this, on relowomen.com, there are blogs, there
mm,
is a podcast on Apple and Spotify that dives deep into some of these topics that you can use for yourself at any point in any time.
yeah, I find it super helpful. I like to go back and review the blogs because again, they're just tools to help us through, these situations and life's challenges. And it's I think about it like with anything. If your car's not functioning properly, you get the proper tools and you fix it. And if you don't have the tools, what do? You find someone who does. And I know with as many of us, I had so many changes last year, and that's when I started working with Annette as a coach. And it's just helped me have these tools. So much so that we're doing Life Coach Friday to bring it to our community as these different issues come up to make us stronger and better as a community so we can keep creating community in all these places that we love. So
Exactly.
thank you. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you,
watching.
Natalie.
Yes, I will chat at you later.